Welcome to the How to Heal podcast, the show where we explore real life stories and practical tools to thrive. I'm your host, Lindsay Trimarchi Richter, and through over a 15-year journey of all things healing, I'm here to hook it up. If you're feeling overwhelmed, looking for a deeper connection, or straight up in a psycho-spiritual crisis, I got you covered. Let's unearth your unique elixir to purpose, peace, and progress. Here we go. Microphone checker 212. All right. Welcome to today's episode of How to Heal with your girl LTR. So today we're talking about spirituality. And listen, this is something that you do not have to explain to anyone. You just know it. It requires no explanation. The information that you get, you just know, you feel it, and you don't have to explain it to anyone. So that's why we have such a hard time with accepting, spirituality and God, because you can't prove it, right? But the amazing thing about it is that when you utilize your spiritual pillar of life, it really provides ease. It doesn't require you to strive to be anything, to get out of your comfort zone, to be something that you're not. It inspires you to strive, but does not require you to be anyone other than who you are. So that's a beautiful thing about spirituality. And I think when we talk about getting in the flow, and, I think a lot of artists are naturally spiritual because they're constantly in the flow. So they're feeling this ease when they make their art. But you don't have to be an artist to be experiencing the flow of spirituality. You just have to slow down enough to listen and sort of doing the same thing over and over and over again until you don't have to think about it and you're in a flow. That's going to help the knowing come in. I'm going to tell a story. So I worked at a law firm as an intern, at a real estate law firm. That's when I realized, because I thought I wanted to be an attorney. That's actually when I realized I did not want to be an attorney, because no offense to attorneys who I deeply respect the practice of law, I find it intriguing. But from my experience, at least the transactional lawyer that I had been sort of working with seemed to be like a professional scribe. And it was just like, I can't do this. I'm not that focused to read like that all the time, things that I don't care about. But anyway, that is neither here or there. That person could have found their flow in reading things of the mundane. So anyway, back to my story. So I was this highly overpaid intern in college, and it was amazing. I worked in the city on 46th and 3rd. And I was given a case to basically do a ton of photocopying and then filing and then storing. But I had to go to this like special room that was like rented for all of this particular case's storage. So I went with like thousands and thousands of papers, and I just created a system, like a structure of how I was going to do it. It was by myself completely in this small room in the city. I have no idea where it was. And I just got in the zone and I knocked it out in like, I think 1 or 2 days. And the woman who had assigned it to me was just like flabbergasted by how amazing of a job I did. Now, candidly, I needed to hear that because I felt like I wasn't doing a good job in anywhere of my life. And even like years past that, I would always look back and be like, yeah, I did a good job in that photocopying job. But the funny thing is like, I was like, what does that mean? What does that mean? Like, what value can I attribute to that? That I'm a good administrative assistant? No, it was actually that I was able to get in a state of flow very easily, providing myself the structure of having a system. So I like knocked out what potentially could have taken someone a week in 1 or 2 days because I just got really organized around how I was doing it and let myself flow. And in that time, the time of my life when that was going on was a completely horrific, was one of the worst times of my life. I was in a relationship, but I was like revisiting another super toxic relationship. I was lying to people. I was lying to myself. I was hiding from people. I was hiding from myself. And it was a very scary time in my life, but I needed that space to be in that flow, to process and to almost organize my mind. So it was a very powerful time for me. And the point of me telling the story is that you do not need to be an artist to experience flow. You do not need to be an artist to experience spiritual downloads and inspiration. And what is interesting about recounting the story with you is that it was the structure for me. The structure allowed me to move really fast and just get in the flow and just like allowing me to really move fast within that structure. And that's essentially what art is. It's like you have your art form, whether it's painting, whether it's singing, whether it's a combination, you decide what that is, but that you have that container in which you can just flow. So I think once you start feeling that flow, you start to notice more synchronicities in your life. You get this feeling of like a flood of inspiration, and you're like, oh my God, I'm in a flood of like the validation. It's like, oh my, you can't deny it. It's undeniable. That's why you don't have to explain spirituality. You just feel it, you know it. No one is going to understand it if you try to explain it, but you know it. You feel special. You know, it makes you feel special. It's like, oh my God, there is something more, and I see it by myself alone. I alone love you, right? So you're allowed to feel that way because you know the universe is yours and yours alone when you have that consciousness, because you know that this human life that we're experiencing and all the synchronicities that come with it are happening for you and to you all at once and all at the same time. And you get to orchestrate. You get to orchestrate your next move in that moment. You are empowered to either acknowledge it and celebrate it, or you have the ability to just ignore it and let it fall to the wayside. You can get caught up in the magic, or you can dismiss it. It's totally up to you. But I'll tell you, when you don't dismiss it, when you get caught up in the magic just comes more and more and more and more. And that's how it works. When we acknowledge the magic likes that. So it comes more. You know, I think the thing about meditation and spirituality and sitting in meditation to find spiritual answers or to find answers from a higher place, any question that you have is always going to have the same answer. And that is, you know, the answer deep down inside. You may be like needing time to integrate the answers or the information. You always know the next step. I just took yoga class with this guy that I love. His name is Pierce. Great name. He was like, you don't need to get to the fully realized pose. That's not the point of yoga. The point is to be connected to each step along the way towards the end of the pose. Like you are taking each consecutive step to get connected to the farthest expression of the pose. It's not the final pose. That's the point. It's being connected to the fullest expression of it. And you know, we have the answers, guys. Like there's no secret sauce. whenever we step into like a relaxing space where we can get out of our head and get into our body and ground ourselves, and we're not highly emotional, we're just sort of like in our body, we just are like, yeah, that actually isn't really a question anymore. I can handle the next step. I know the answer to the next step. I know what I need to do. When we get really heady or we get highly emotional, we panic and we're like, can't handle this. But then you have to sit down and be like, what's the next step? What's the structure? How can I create the confines of my container to create what I need to create to get in flow, to just do what I need to do to make the correct next step for me, which inevitably is benefiting the people around you, which is why boundaries are so important because like everyone, oh, I'm a mother, everyone needs everything from me. Yes. But like you're nearly giving as much as you could be giving if unless you're serving yourself first. That's why I wake up at 4:30 in the morning to go to the gym 3 days a week because I don't have time to do it during the week. So my husband has to wake up with me, unfortunately, at 4:30 in the morning and listen to me wake up for, 15 minutes and run out the door. But that's what needs to happen so I can take care of myself. That's a boundary that I set. No, I didn't want to wake up at 4:30 this morning. I was tired, but I got to the gym because I needed to sweat, because I needed to prioritize myself. I have just four concepts here that I'm going to just briefly discuss for the sake of maybe you didn't never heard of these concepts, you're not familiar, or I'm just going to give you my take on these concepts. So, consciousness and how that works. If you haven't gotten it already from the 10 episodes that I've posted, yay, 10 episodes. This is the 11th. Consciousness works on a cellular level. So that means that when we think something, it's created somewhere else. And when we clean up consciousness, it's cleaned up somewhere else. And, when we think about dark and light or good and evil, or it's a scale of like when you watch like a music thing that's taking like an input of audio and it's like the bars are going up and down and they're like equalizing. That's exactly like what consciousness is. And that then plays into karma, right? So the interesting thing about karma is that you can be conscious of how you are creating good or bad karma, but that you can also be completely unconscious of past life karma that can catch up with you or that you just may need to clean up, right? It's all about like cleaning up the thought, cleaning up the consciousness, rising the energy, making things better than you left them, acknowledging things need to be cleaned, and then cleaning them and leaving things better than you found them. Another concept that I just want to talk about that I'm really excited to explore and learn more about is astral projection and lucid dreaming. I have been lucid dreaming, astrally projecting my entire life. From a very young age, I would be sleepwalking, I would be having super vivid dreams, I'd be sleep talking, I'd be sleep jumping, I'd be sleep like Spider-Manning out of my bed. Literally, I have jumped out of my bed like Spider-Man onto the floor like a freaking spider. I am still working on figuring it out and figuring out what that means. I think I had been living a life of a lot of stress and intensity. That doesn't happen as much often now. Now I kind of experience more like I'm aware of entities being around me that I'm actually like, because my energy body is calmer and my nervous system is regulated a little bit more. I'm not jumping out of my bed like a Spider-Man because I'm not so scared. I'm actually just like, oh, there's like an entity next to me and my like what does it want? So, I think that when you talk about astral projection and lucid dreaming, it's a whole world that I'm just like so interested in really mastering at this point in my life, because it comes very naturally to me. The interesting thing about dreaming and lucid dreaming and receiving messages. Everyone's like, oh, analyze your dreams, analyze your dreams. It's like, yeah, if your body is in a state of dysregulation and your nervous system is all hyped up, like you can just disregard your dreams for the most part. My opinion, most likely an accurate statement. I've had, just very wild dreams that were not really telltale signs of anything because I was just exhausted. And I think that like we just have to get our physical bodies in a state of regulation for us to really look at our dreams in a meaningful way. Additionally, we are at least for me, I am hypersensitive to astral entities while I'm sleeping because I'm just like working on overtime. It feels like to me, I don't give myself the break of being like, I'm gonna go to sleep and mind my business. No, I'm like in everyone other's business astrally, being like, what are you doing? I gotta clean up over here. And once what ends up happening is I'm not getting rest. My body's not getting rest. So if you feel like you're just waking up exhausted, working on overtime, like maybe this is something that you're doing that you can pay attention to. And, again, there are people, I've heard this. I don't really know anyone who is doing this on the regular, but I've heard of people just sort of like meeting up in astral life, being like, yo, here's my boy, like astrally, like across the world, being like, yo, what's up? Let's hang out. Let's go flying together. Like, I don't know much about this, to be honest, but this is stuff that I'm going to look into because I think that as we progress as the human race and as we get more equipped to handle our physical, mental, emotional bodies, we're going to be able to step into the astral world a little bit more mindfully. And what's going to end up happening is like the lines are going to like start blurring potentially between astral and waking. I think there was a movie called Waking Life that came out in the 90s. It's like a half animated movie. It's very interesting about astral projection if you're interested. Um, but yeah, it always like really enchanted me because I was like, what is that? And I know that I'm so close to that. Like I know that I have this ability to be very aware of the space in which my mind is occupying when I'm sleeping. So I think, guys, that's pretty much it. Manifestation, manifestation. I'm so over hearing about manifestation. Just like do what you need to do to get the results that you want to get. Like, you don't need to set up an altar and do, I mean, I've done it in the past, but like all you have, like for me, my manifestation practice is writing down what the fuck I want and then taking the actions towards getting it. And it's called grounded spirituality, people. Like we don't need to like, oh, your manifestation bestie. No, whatever, over, done, I'm over it. So sorry to hate on you manifestation babes, but and I think there actually is someone called the manifestation babe that I think I like. So I'm not hating on her specifically, but I just think that like this whole manifestation thing feels a little spiritual bypassy. So let's just like get into the root of caring for ourselves at a base level, at a physical level, mental level, emotional, and spiritual level, and then go do the things we want to do and then see the results start flooding in. I love you guys. I can't wait to see you next week. Adios.